Well, hello. Welcome to Essential Crochet with Sig. That would be me. This is my channel. For today's review, I'm going to begin with one of Annie's Kit Club's Afghans. I chose the Moroccan tile. I think it's just beautiful. But I've done this mostly for you. Well, a little for me too, but mostly for you. This particular Afghan, and there will be other Afghans to follow, but I'm going to do one Afghan at a time. And my plan is, or at least my thought is, to show you the kit, right? I'm going to open it. I'm going to show you what comes in it. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to share some of my thoughts and my opinions. Oh, and by the way, I am not sponsored. I am not affiliated at this time. And so all the opinions and perspectives and comments are my own. And even if I were affiliated or sponsored, all the opinions, perspectives, and comments would still be all my own. So I don't know if being sponsored or getting an affiliate is anything that's going to happen for me anytime soon. But there you go. There you have it. The drawbacks of being brutally honest and sometimes inappropriately so. But such is life, right? But I digress. So this kit, or at least my doing the kit for you on this show, isn't going to be so much to discuss whether it's really a good deal or not. I know I've seen others discuss the relevancy of the value of the kit, and many times I actually agree with them. But that's agreeing with them from a perspective of somebody who's already gotten some experience, somebody who already knows how to shop for their yarn, know what they're looking for in their yarn, already have their hooks and their needles, and they've been around the block a couple of times. So sure, many of these things they can probably and are able to find cheaper, but the kits really are designed for people who are just starting out, people who are beginning, or people who just simply like the project, like the Afghan that's being presented or offered up. And in a kit, it's just kind of a no-brainer, right? They give you the yarn that you need. They give you the instructions you need. You're going to get what you see. You don't have to try and locate yarn for yourself. You don't have to try to worry about what's going to be best for the piece, what's going to make it look like the picture you're seeing, right? So there's a lot of good reasons for why you might like to get a kit. And value versus, cost of the actual items within that kit, at least in this particular situation and under these general, what's the word I'm looking for? Guidelines. The value really is so close and so similar that it really isn't anything to get, at least in my opinion, too worked up over. However, for you, it may be a determining factor in this particular situation as to whether you purchase the kit or not. And that's really where I come in terms of these sorts of reviews. I'll give you my honest opinion. I'll pull things out of the kit and I'll let you see them. The only thing I won't show you is the actual pattern because that's the intellectual property, if you will, of the designer, of the company. And they're really still in the business of selling you a pattern, right? So I'm not going to infringe anyone's copyrights so that you can get a look at their pattern, because that's not really the purpose of this review. But what I will show you is I'll show you the material list, and we'll discuss that a little bit. And I'll show you images of what the piece is supposed to look like. And then the part where it shows you images of which part of the piece you happen to be working on for this particular month. So I'll do a video for each month until it's finished. And this particular Afghan takes 10 months to complete. And I think most of their Afghans do. So, so that's something to keep into consideration. So after all that, let's just go ahead and get started. So of course, the first thing we're going to begin with is the typical Annie's Kit package. You see this envelope, you know your next kit has arrived. Now, the very first thing I pull out of my kit is this package. And in this package, I've got 2 hooks. And that's interesting. So it makes me wonder if I'm going to use both hooks in this project, or if maybe they give me another hook, a different size, just in case I need a different hook in order to better adjust my gauge. I don't know. I guess we'll really have to work into the pattern to see what happens. But irregardless, you're going to want to hold on to both of your hooks. Many of us already have our own hooks, and I'll be using my own hook personally, my own hooks. But if you are a beginner, this is great. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to go out and purchase a new hook. These hooks look quite decent. They're nice, sturdy hook. They'll last you forever. For somebody like myself, for somebody who already has hooks, this is a great way to collect backup hooks. You know, in case you're going to go somewhere where, if it were to get lost, it wouldn't hurt your feelings much because your good hooks are safe at home. You know, whatever your approach may be. So this is all right. This is okay. And these hooks are going to be a 5mm and a 5.5mm. I'm also got stitch markers and then a yarn needle. And, and those are good. That's going to, the stitch markers, clearly we're going to probably be using them with this pattern. And then, of course, the yarn needle. We always use yarn needles, especially when it comes time to weave in our ends, correct? So, all right. So that's good. I really didn't expect it to come with hooks. And that was a pleasant surprise. Next thing I pull out of my kit bag are the yarns I will be using for the first part of my blanket. Now, I'm pretty impressed with the yarns that we're using. A Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Worsted. That's a good, solid, really decent acrylic yarn. And so that's really nice. For those of you who don't know what anti-pilling means, it means it's not going to fluff up or get all those little balls that you sometimes get on your sweaters or your other knitted wear when you put it through the washer and dryer. So that's good. It's also really nice that this particular acrylic is an easy to care for acrylic. Especially when they say like new, wash after wash, what they're really telling you is that this will wash up nicely in the washer and most likely be able to dry it. And here we go with the instructions. Yes, wash on warm and tumble dry normal. So again, that makes this a particularly good beginner yarn. On top of everything else, it's going to yield you the best results, especially if you're a beginner. Your yarn's going to work up nice. You're not going to have too many problems with it. And so it's going to really help you not be discouraged, because I think a lot of beginners also start off with some really cheap, crappy acrylic yarn. It's just a misery to work with, in my never so humble opinion. And, there's no better way to get discouraged, especially when working with fibers, when the fiber you're working with is just crap. And no matter how good you are, no matter how good of a job you do, your piece is still just going to look kind of crappy because the yarn itself is just crappy. So I'm pleased to see that they give us the anti-pilling Premier yarn. And that makes me happy. That's another pleasant surprise. And I'm totally good with this. The color of this yarn right here is going to be paprika, which is interesting because the color of the Afghan I chose to do is called Holiday Spice, because the Afghan that I'm doing, this Moroccan tile crochet Afghan, it comes in several different possible color combinations. And the holiday spice is just one. And I'll talk more about the color combinations here in just a moment. So my first color is going to be paprika. The second color they give me, this next colorway, is called pine cone. Now, I'm not really sure where they get pine cone from with this one. I mean, it's a beautiful color. It's kind of this beigey, grayish color, and that's really nice. But I don't know that I would call it pine cone, but that's neither here nor there. That's also a really lovely, nice color. The third color I get is going to be basil, and that's very basil-y. And I just love the neutral tones of this particular colorway for this Afghan. My next one, predictably, is cream. Oh, and in addition, before we continue, I just thought I'd mention each one of these skeins. They're small skeins, they're 50 grams, and you're going to get 90 yards or 82 meters for your 50 grams. Now, I suspect that even if I use only a little bit of one skein, I probably want to hold on to the whole skein because I bet I will be using that color again in future blocks or aspects of this Afghan as we get along in our making of it. And then our last color is called evergreen. And yeah, this looks like a green color of a tree in the shadows, right? It's not the evergreen that you think of when you think of evergreen, but it is an evergreen color if you're thinking in terms of what that evergreen looks like when it's shadowed. And that's just a beautiful green. I really love this. Okay, so far I'm really happy with what's come in the kit so far for what it is. I'm not displeased, and I really can't complain about it, especially for a beginner kit. This is pretty nice. So next, this is what the holiday spice color of the Afghan that I chose to do. This colorway is what I chose to do. And I just fell in love with these colors. There's another color combination that I also fell in love with, and I'll get into that after I explain all the other different color combinations in between. So this is the holiday spice color combination of Afghans. Now, our next color combination is titled Floating Lanterns. And this color combination comes mostly with like blues, dark blues, light blues, and then it's accented with some reds, oranges, and whites. So that's really kind of nice. It's another, I mean, they're all nice looking. They're all the same pattern. They just come in different color combinations. So if that's something that suits your taste or flavor better, then that's something you certainly want to look into. The next color combination they offer, or rather, it's not really a color combination, it's monochromatic. So basically, it's the Afghan made in just straight cream color. So really what's going on is the actual stitch itself, the texture of your Afghan is what takes center stage and not the color of your Afghan. So for those of you who like a more natural or Aran feel to your Afghans, this might be the way for you to go. The next color is called Casablanca. Now this color combination is made up mostly of like your typical primary colors, your reds, your blues, your yellows, you know, something that you might think of in terms of what you might find in a Crayola box. You know, the actual colors that you might think would be traditional to a Moroccan mosaic, in fact. And it's offset by a background of cream. So that one is really a nice one as well. They all have their own personality. They're all just beautiful color combinations. Now, the last color combination that I really had to think about, that I really had to kind of struggle with in terms of whether I liked that one better or whether I liked the Holiday Spice one better. This color combination is called Midnight Mosaic. And it's made with soft blues, pinks, yellows, and lilacs. It's got a little bit of green in there as well. And when I say soft, I don't mean pastel. So it sits somewhere between maybe a pastel color and a primary color. It's kind of somewhere in that middle tone. And its background or it's offset with a black background. So it's just stunning. It's just beautiful. And the only thing that turned my opinion from the Midnight Mosaic Afghan to this Holiday Spice Afghan was the fact that the Midnight Mosaic Afghan really wasn't going to match the decor of my house. It was just going to, it was just going to stick out. It wasn't going to blend comfortably in with the look and decor of my home. But however, the Holiday Spice Afghan really does. It fits into my home's decor just beautifully. And I just love the colors. So Holiday Spice Afghan it was. So this is the book that you get, the little pamphlet, if you will. And it's kit 1, so it's going to indicate to you which kit this pamphlet is made for. So I open it, and again, I get another image of the Afghan. And then right here, I get my material list. And here it shows me the skill level. So this is a beginner, advanced beginner skill level, and an ambitious beginner. So for those of you who don't know what an ambitious beginner is, that's a total newbie who really wants to jump in with both feet. And so advanced beginner is really also synonymous with ambitious beginner. So it's good. They talk gauge. You got your special pattern notes. You got your special stitches you're going to find. I like that they tell you what's supposed to be in your kit. And so that's really helpful. So they do tell me that I'm expected to get the 5 skeins of 50 grams per skein. And they tell me which colors I should get. So that's super helpful. And they also tell me that for kit 1, I need to use my 5.5 millimeter. I like that they give the other metrics because as a beginner, hook sizes can be confusing. Because we have hooks, like as you can see here, where it's easy to get 3 or 4 different metrics for the same size hook. And if you're not familiar with what those metrics look like, then it's easy to get confused. So I like that. And this first part of the kit asks that you use a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. So that leaves me to wonder, is my other hook, which is a 5 millimeter hook, am I going to be using that later on in future kits? Or was that just given to me in case I needed a size down hook in order to meet the gauge requirements if let's say I was a particularly loose crocheter? So that's interesting. That'd be interesting to see how that works out. And of course, we get all the instructions. And then on the back of this pamphlet, it shows us what part of the Afghan we're going to be working with. And first part of this Afghan is going to be this middle center block. And that's pretty exciting. So all in true video magic, I'm going to step away, and in a moment I will return with the finished block, and then I'll be able to give you my thoughts on it, how it worked up, how easy I thought it was, if I had any problems, what it was like working with the yarn, all the good stuff. And then we will talk pricing, what I paid for this kit, and did I think it was worth it or not. I mean, we already kind of know my initial thoughts on that, but we'll get into it just a little bit more here in just a moment. So I have completed this first square for my Moroccan tile Afghan. And let me tell you, if you are a brand newbie beginner, you're probably not going to be interested in this kit. It will probably give you more angst and more points of frustration than you would care to have to deal with. I personally enjoyed this Afghan. And even though they tell you that skill level is advanced beginner or ambitious beginner, I think it would be a real challenge for an advanced beginner or ambitious beginner. However, I will also say they do provide excellent videos, and So if you are an ambitious beginner, by all means, don't let the last comment I just made dissuade you from purchasing and trying out the kit. Just take your time. Don't be afraid to frog your work. Don't be afraid. In other words, don't be afraid to unravel it and start it again if you realize you're doing something wrong with your stitching. This is not one of those Afghans where you just repeat the same row twice. This is not easy in the sense of, well, easy in the sense of, super beginner. You learn 1 or 2 stitches, and those are the stitches you continue to use through the course of this Afghan. This is not that Afghan. This Afghan is an Afghan that I would strongly suggest anyone doing it to do it when their attention isn't so terribly divided, because there is a lot of counting that needs to be done. You need to stay on top of your counting in order for your stitches to turn out and lay out correctly. It's fairly technical, is probably the best way to put it, and you need to really stay on top of that and keep track of that. This is just one of those Afghans where your count is incredibly important. Now, I personally do a lot of free form crocheting, so if I can get away with not paying attention to my count, I am definitely guilty as charged. However, I am OCD enough that if something requires a count, and I'm telling you that it requires a count in order to work out correctly, that's, there's in my mind, there's no way around it. Just do the count. You will be so happy that you took the extra time in order to do it. Now, with that said, I quite enjoyed doing this. This took me a couple of hours, 2-3 hours to put it together. I was doing this. I was trying to watch the news, and yes, I did lose my place a couple of times because I did divide my attention, and so I had to pull my work out a little bit, realizing the count was off. But otherwise, I'm really pleased with it. The variety of stitches, for me, that's very nice. But for a beginner, even an advanced beginner, it's something you're going to really want to slow down with and just really take your time and make sure you're doing it right. After the first few times of doing your stitch, then it's going to feel, you're going to get into the rhythm of things. But I'm just telling you that so that you don't become discouraged, because I've seen some other videos where people have tried to work out this particular square, because I actually researched this particular Afghan before I purchased it, because I was trying to get a feel for what I thought of it, right? I get a little geeky like that. But yeah, a couple of people, they did beautiful jobs with their Afghans. A couple of other people, they really did go wrong. They went wrong in their stitch somewhere, right? And it's easy to do with this piece. At the time I was looking at it and I was going, oh my goodness, guys, come on now, slow down, back up, wait till the kids go to bed, whatever it takes so that you can just focus on this piece. And then I worked the piece myself, and I could see where it's really easy. So you want to be cognizant of what your stitches are. You want to stay on top of your count. If you need to watch the videos, you're going to save yourself so many headaches if you just watch the videos. I personally did not watch videos. I've seen a couple of the videos, so I know they're well done, but I did not watch the videos for any part of this Afghan, because I am interested in working it according to how I read the instructions, and then troubleshoot as I go along. That's kind of the challenge for me. I find it, at least for me, I find it very easy to watch something and pick up on it and not be able to become more proficient with the pattern, right? Let me see it. And I learn really well that way. However, I also know some of my weak points are reading the pattern and understanding what the designer is trying to tell me. And so I challenge myself with that. And that's how I personally force myself to improve as I go along. And so this is no different. And I wanted to kind of get a feel for what issues, if I'm running into these issues, they're probably, at least for some of you, it's probably going to be an issue you are going to run into. So I made a couple of opinions. And I've already touched on the first one in terms of, your bare basic beginner. This is probably not for you. Your advanced beginner or your ambitious beginner, I think you could probably do this, but you want to take it really slow. You want to make sure you watch the videos, and you want to make sure that you read through your instructions a couple of times and really have a good feel for what they're asking you to do in terms of stitches and counts. Next, I discovered that there was one part of the pattern where I could see go kind of wrong for some people, especially those visual learners, because I almost fell into that trap myself, and I'm a very visual learner. So I'm looking at the image, and in the image, I am seeing only this evergreen right here in the middle. But the pattern's not making sense to me because they're asking for, because the pattern's asking me to use the basil yarn, and all I see is the evergreen yarn, and I already can see where I need to put the stitches and what stitches I probably need to use because that's fairly easy for me. But what I'm seeing, and of course I'm jumping ahead, right? And so I'm jumping ahead, I'm getting ahead of myself. And what I'm seeing isn't jiving with what I'm reading in the pattern. And so I had to take a minute, of course, I had to take a breath, walk away from it because I was like, what the hell? It's obviously got to be me because I can't imagine this pattern has gone this long without any editing, or if there was truly an issue. So it has to be operator error, me being the operator. Okay, I took a breath. I came back. I took another look at the pattern. And what I realized was in the image on the pattern, you could hardly see this little bit of the basil green for round 5. So in round 5, you have a very little bit of basil green that goes into the round. And then because of the way round 6 or the evergreen lays over top of it, it's just a small sliver of green, light of the basil green that shows through. So I wasn't seeing it at first glance on the photo. So lesson learned, take your time. Don't rely on the photo to tell you where you need to be in terms of that being your sole source of instructional guide, right? So that's something I thought I'd throw out there. And then also there was something else, and this it was me again. It just kind of bugged me. There is a section where you join. So you're going from round 11 to round 12. And this is neither here nor there because it's nothing wrong with the pattern. It's just me, but I thought I'd point it out because if it's me, then I think it might be somebody else too. So I'm going to bring this in here, and I'm going to show where are we at. Okay, so right here, let me get a little pointer for you. So right here, between rounds 11 and 12, there is a break from where you join your evergreen color as you finish up your basil color. So if you look, see, you can that the chain, or the part, it looks like a chain, this outer edge of round 11 goes all the way around. It's unbroken. You can follow the V's all the way around until you get here. And it looks like your chain has been broken because of where the color change occurs. Now, for most people aren't going to care at all. And there's nothing wrong with it. And it's perfect. But for me, I had to alter that just a little bit because that would drive me crazy. That would, that's a skip or a hiccup in the consistency. And while I understand it's a little anal retentive for a lot of people, every time I looked at that, that would drive me nuts. 20 years of tattooing, and it's the little details that really catch my attention. And, you know, and with that kind of work, it had to be. So, so even in my crochet work, even though this is, you know, because at first I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. I was trying to figure out what it was that I was doing wrong, and I realized it was the color change, and they had the same exact color change kind of visual in the picture. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, if you don't care, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just something I thought I'd point out only because I'm discussing my thoughts and my adventures with this particular square. So now I didn't use all the yarn, so I'll show you what I had left and what I'll hold on to because I'm sure I'll be using this yarn again. I'll continue to use the yarn because I can't imagine the kit's going to give me too much more yarn than I'm actually going to need to complete the Afghan. I mean, that just seems like common sense to me, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. So now in terms of value, what I did was I purchased these kits on my own. Nobody's given them to me. I purchased them. So I paid for the first kit because I got 50% off. So I paid $9.99 plus $5.95 for shipping. And that's got me this first installment of the kit. Now going forward, I will pay $19.99. I believe it's $19.99 each month plus the $5.95 for shipping. So it's going to come to approximately $26 a month. Now, at the end of 10 months, we are in fact looking at $260. I know it's a lot, and this is where people come into this questioning the value of the kit, and I get it. But if you're working on a budget and you break it down to $26 a month, most people can manage that. Most people are going to take a week to complete their square. Most people are going to, you know, this isn't what they do with their day. So they're going to scratch out a little time here and a little time there when they have a quiet moment in order to do this. So $26 a month is really, you're really paying for a lot, I think. I think you're paying for the convenience of having this kit pre-curated for you. You're paying for the time that you don't have to spend looking for the yarn you need, or even trying to calculate or figuring out how much yarn you need. You're also paying for the access to the videos. So yeah, you can be a beginner. You can get yourself in, you know, for a few dollars, you can get yourself a pattern. But especially as a beginner, are you going to have access to videos that's going to help you with said pattern along the way? You know, and then you still have to think in terms of you're probably going to buy your yarn all at once. And that's going to run you into a little bit of money because, well, Afghans take a lot of yarn. I don't have the specs here in front of me right now, but Afghans can take, you know, a considerable amount of yarn. So unless you know how to calculate that, or you have the chunk of money on hand in order to purchase all the yarn you need in one go around, you know, that could. So it's kind of like you're going to have to make those decisions for yourself. What is it worth to you? Are you good with what you're being charged? Does this increments of payments just make the smaller bites more manageable. You know, all of these things. And like I said, these kits, at, at, at least in terms of the reviews of these kits, I'm gearing them mostly towards beginners and intermediate people, people who are still learning, people who already have it figured out, or who already buy a lot of their own yarns, already have know where to go to find the best patterns that they can read and follow without any additional aids or help if they need it. Those people probably aren't going to be really drawn to these kits, because they can, in all honesty, create their own Afghans for probably less money, but they also know what they're doing, and they've also put a lot of time and money into their craft and just getting from point A to point B. So this is things that I think people neglect to talk about, and people fail to keep this aspect of this into perspective. Now, can kits get really expensive really fast? Absolutely. I don't even want to tell you what I'm spending on kits for the coming year in order to bring content to my channel. But if you're only doing one, you find one kit that you like at a time, and you're taking it in small bites, I think you're going to be very happy, and you're going to be, and I don't think you're going to be any worse for it at all. So at the end of all of this, yes, I am pleased with this square. I'm looking forward to, continuing forward with the coming kits for this particular Afghan. And no, I'm sure, none of them after this are going to be nearly as long as this rant of a video review vlog kit is. So if you've stuck in this long to listen to me, you are amazing. And with that said, I want to wish you and your amazing self a most wonderful weekend. Bye-bye now. We'll see you soon.